Good afternoon to those who are watching this and who will be watching this later. I want to say something really quick about the actions that were taken last week. I am not going to get into the ramifications of the politics. I'm not getting the ramifications of what the should or should not be done. What I am going to say as a father is we need to start paying attention to the people around us, to where we let our kids go. It was a school. We should be okay with letting our kids be at school, but there are people out there that have mental illness, and I just want everybody to be safe. I want to take a moment of silence for the families who lost their children. There is nothing greater, there's nothing worse than a parent to lose their child. It's supposed to be the other way. They're supposed to be able to, our children are supposed to bury us. It's not supposed to be this way. And the fact that it is, and this happens, and this is not the first school shooting, and it won't be the last. And we need to do something about that. I don't know what the answers are. I can only speak as a father. I love the people that watch this chat, and if you have children after the chat's over, hell, even during the chat, give them a hug. Tell them you love them, because we never know what tomorrow will bring. Like I said, I want to do a quick moment of silence. Then we'll be joined by Bruce. Then we'll talk about Dresden. Now, with that being said, make sure tonight you read your children Peter Pan, because every child needs to go to Neverland at least once in their life. Hey, Briss.
Hey.
Hello.
Saturday, man.
Hello, son.
Sorry you had to wait through that.
It's all right. Something that I think we probably will be doing for quite a while, because what's the national fucking tragedy that happened?
Something that I think.
Sorry about the echo, guys.
It's all right. We won't flog you this time.
Oh, man.
Today, we're going to be talking about the Dresden Files, one of my favorite series of novels out there. It was created by the brilliant mind of Jim Butcher, who realized that making a series in Missouri was a bad idea because that state was already taken, so he decided to move it to Chicago, where at the time, he didn't know anything about Chicago. All he did was type it in and figure things out.
Figured things out pretty well.
No, it turned out amazing. He knows more about Chicago than most Chicagoans, it seems.
It's kind of weird because. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, actual Chicago's probably a bit worse.
Chicago is its own creature. It's like everywhere else. Orlando, Florida, Tampa Bay, Miami. Miami, though, there's some really good cigar places down there, but that's for a later conversation.
At least till he's 18.
Yeah. Or Miami, as I like to call it, Northern Cuba, but that's just me. It is a good thing because the food down there, some of it's really amazing. All right, let's Dresden. So we are starting with the first novel called Stormfront. It is one out of 17 books that are out right now, and 2 side books of short stories. Suitcase and Side Jobs? No. I think it's Side Jobs. I might be wrong. It happens. So, who here read the book other than the grown-ups? Did you, Jack? Were you able to make through it?
All but the last, I think, 20 minutes.
He's doing the audiobook. He's doing the audiobook.
Right, 20 minutes. Okay. So you get the basically gist of the story. That's cool. That works.
So you met Morgan.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Morgan is my favorite character in the series.
Morgan?
Yeah, I was going to
really?
say, I like the character too. He's probably
hard ass.
Quite good.
I like Toot Toot.
I like Toot Toot can be bribed with pizza, as can all fairy kind. You would think if I
My
didn't
daughter
have a
wanted me to
fucking
do. My
Sasquatch
daughter told me I
nearby,
should do the
could
voice.
actually have friends.
What?
If I didn't have a Sasquatch nearby, stealing away all my. Never mind.
Interesting. So, what do you guys think of a modern day wizard becoming a detective?
Well, having been basically a detective in a previous career, not quite
I think he's lying.
not quite that kind. I worked for a private investigation agency, and mostly I just sat in a car watching people cheat on each other. But when I wasn't doing that, we did some pretty important stuff. It's it's a lot of fun. Not the job. The job sucks. The real job. That's why there aren't any anymore. And if there are, they work for huge corporations and do everything high tech and not the old school style. Not the old Simon and Simon, or modern day Sherlock Holmes. Romanticized versions of that. You guys are both. You guys know that. My instant reaction was his writing style was like Zelazny. Um, that includes not just the way he puts his words together, but the way the subject matter in general. When you guys get the chance, if you haven't already, and you get a chance to read some Zelazny, you'll see what I'm talking about. Not a lot of authors are willing, other than the Harry Potter stories, which I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. A lot of modern writers and even previous writers really did not like mixing modern day with fantasy or science fiction. Yeah, there was supernatural, and for the most part, they did a really good job up to a point. So anytime I can read a story that's done well about modern day mixed with science fiction or fantasy, I want to be a part of it. Even if just an audience member, from Stranger Things, Supernatural, the Amber Chronicles, and a few other books I could mention. Most of you probably never heard of, and one book I don't want to mention because it's my book, and no one's allowed to read it but me, because I hate when books or stories become super popular. I used to be a huge Lord of the Rings nerd. I read the main 4 books 20 times before the movies came out, and my friends and I, we'd have discussions and nobody would know what the hell we were talking about. And then suddenly the movies came out and everybody thought they were the expert now because they'd seen the movie twice, and what it did to the overall feel and connection I had to it. Now, and if I go 20 years without reading Tolkien, it'll be okay, because it just seems, I don't know, when things get mainstreamed, for me, it no longer becomes something I want to be a part of.
That's fair. What about you, Jack? For what you read of the novel, what you heard of the novel, all but 20 minutes of it, what do you think of it?
I liked it. I liked it a lot. The main parts that I wasn't a fan of, I mainly wasn't a fan of because I'm a prude. But
well, yeah, I didn't really think about those parts when I first thought about it.
Yeah, we've realized in retrospect there was at least one section that we knew you would probably not be a big fan of, but I think they did that well. There were no descriptions of things that left everything to your imagination, as it really should be, unless you're reading one of Bruce's Harlequin books. I don't think if that's what you want to read. That's great, and I've read books like that. I can't remember any of their names, but there's one that I'll talk about later off camera.
I'm going to ask you not to treat this book like there's spoilers. The book is over 10 years old.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay,
for him.
And the part that I think you're referencing is the murder scene, correct?
No. Was it the scene where he's?
I wasn't referring to one specific scene. I think there was maybe 3.
There's some adult interactions.
Not a perfect memory of exactly what scene I'm thinking of.
I think when Dresden was looking in a window and saw some things that a 13-year-old boy really shouldn't be, peeping in on, if you guys know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's a growing young man, and he's got to learn about that somewhere. And from what he doesn't learn from me, and then blush bright red. Better here and there than out on the streets and get the actual wrong
Idea.
information, facts. I'll tell them straight up. The facts.
Okay.
Sprinkled with a little bit of my opinion, but it's it's one of those stories, like I was saying about investigating people cheating on one another. You damn well better believe that some of the things I saw had to be seen so that the cheated on husband or wife would have it not necessarily straight from the horse's mouth, but would have the information that they really didn't want but shelled out money for anyways.
That's fair. Now
Gavin and Mac.
So out of curiosity, I know Bruce, you've probably been to Chicago. Bruce, you've been to Chicago once or twice in your life.
Yeah, a few times.
Have either one of you guys, or have you been mainly,
He's been there.
Yeah.
My father was born there, Champaign, Illinois, and all over. Both my parents went to the University of Chicago, and that's where University of Illinois, and that's where they met and eventually got married. There are a lot of places in the world I've been to. That's just not one of them, and mostly the weather kept me away, and obviously, a lot of the crime. But if you want a good story, you got to have crime. That's just
right. I know by no way is this my version of a postcard for Chicago, but you go up there on a nice day in the summer. You got Lake Michigan, blowing off a breeze blowing off Lake Michigan. You're at the pier, or you're doing something around Lake Michigan. It's really nice. It's very pretty. Plus, we got a great big glass bean up there, which I don't know why, but I think I know why, but that's for a later book. So, what did you guys think of the people other than Dresden and Morgan? We got introduced to Murphy. We got introduced to Bob. I love Bob's my hero. You'll understand as you keep reading the novels. We got introduced to Murphy, Morgan, Dresden himself, Bob, Toot Toot, and Max.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah.
And the couple of the people that worked for the police station, and of course the bad guys. Oh, and gentleman gentleman
Marco.
yes.
Is his name?
Yeah, I really actually like that character.
Yeah.
As one of my top favorites. Anytime you've got I'm not going to call him the big bad because he clearly isn't yet. Maybe later on, but I like the bad guys to be more than just psychos and thugs and just super powered dimwits. This guy's bad on all kinds of different levels, and that makes him more interesting and more scary in my opinion. Obviously the rampaging psycho is pretty scary too, but for a better story and a better long-term investment, I think that he's I imagine going to be a reoccurring character. I'm pretty sure he was in the second book, and you need characters like that. Real quick, howdy Max and Kat. Apparently Bruce has his very own stalker. So congrats on that one.
Yeah.
Cat 5's a sweetie. She does a lot of video game streams, and she likes 3.5.
Cool. Yeah, she's been fun to read in various chats I've noticed lately.
Yes.
Especially yesterday. I was surprised she stuck around for the whole 5+ hours. That was nice.
I wanted to run longer, but I was going to have people starting to drop off, and I was just like, let me cut while I got a strong group here.
No worries. As long as everybody shows up next time, I guess I'll let them live, and I won't become an anti-paladin.
So, who is your favorite character there, Jack?
Difficult question. Like if you would have asked me this, like if you would have asked me this yesterday, I would have said Dresden. But now I'm not quite sure.
It's almost the easy answer. Who's your favorite character? Dresden, of course.
Yeah. I'll go with that.
You go with
Go with that.
Dresden still? Not Morgan, not Max.
Morgan was
What?
Hmm?
No, continue what you're saying. I want to know what you're thinking.
Oh, I was just gonna say no. I was gonna say Morgan was
Interesting.
Hard ass?
yeah.
I definitely want to see more of Morgan. Unfortunately, he reminds me of some other characters, but I'm only 2 books in, and I'm hoping that he will continue to. To put this simply, I hope he continues to be like more powerful than Dresden, because there always needs to be that. I think having
Yeah.
the main character just be the best at everything. I've read tons of Doc Savage, The Shadow, John Carter, and a bunch of other stories lately where that's just overwhelmingly the case, and that gets a little tired after a while. Obviously, if a book is about a certain hero, you kind of expect that, but in especially like compared to gaming, the heroes, the main characters or whatever, they're never the most powerful people in the story, and that's what makes them the heroes and makes them interesting to follow along with. The zero to hero aspect. Just that's what the story's about. It's about that person, those people, but there should always be people that are can smack some reason and authority into the main character to make it realistic. No matter who you are, there's always someone bigger and badder and better than you in everything. You just probably haven't met them because you're a small fish at the moment. Even when you get to be a big fish, there should always be people.
There's always a bigger fish.
Yeah, yeah. On both sides, your side and the enemy side, there should always be people. Unless you were the first person born and you're an immortal and you've been alive since the beginning of time, there's always someone out there who's older, more experienced, more powerful, richer, more connected, something, whatever it takes to make you feel, or to put you in your place, so to speak.
Oh, I forgot a character. I was actually looked at Wikipedia to make sure I got all the main characters figured out. We forgot about our Madam Vampire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
yeah.
I despised every second of her being on the page, but you're supposed to.
Yeah.
And I have a special deep-seating hatred for all things vampiric. If you drink blood, you need to be exterminated, whether you have a pulse or not. That's just wrong. It's not meant to be. And the unfortunate characters that have to suffer that curse, the nicest thing you can do is put them out of their misery and protect everyone around them. So he did a nice job. I absolutely damn near threw up reading the first Anne Rice book, and ever since then I have experienced things that only reaffirmed my beliefs. Vampires need to be put down, and she was no exception.
That's fair.
So, a statement.
So well done, making me hate yet another vampire.
Well, I mean, that's really difficult.
No, it's not. Well, you'd be surprised. There are a lot of people out there.
Well, for you, there are degenerates out there.
And don't get me wrong.
I hear that, Bruce.
I will. Yes, I am actually. Sorry, Kat. Don't hate me because I'm morbid. Look, you can hate me. It's the free world. You want to hate me? I understand. Sometimes
I don't think anybody hates you, bud.
No, I'm just trying to be funny. But he did a good job making me despise the character, and I'm guessing that was his intent. I would almost pity the character, but I'm all out of pity today. So, but we haven't talked about the potential love interest in Mr. Dresden's life. I think
we'll get to that here in a second. We'll get to that here in a second. I want to ask Bruce, what out of this book? I know you were up to date on the books for the most part.
Pardon?
Yep.
I'm asking Bruce. I'm asking Bruce a question. Now, out of this book, out of this cast, who's your favorite?
Out of this cast, we haven't met Bitters yet. So, Butters. I'm going to say that I would probably go with Bob. And Bob is like a top 3 character of mine throughout the entire series.
Bob is
the skull, right?
Bob's the skull.
Yeah, Bob was
tied to the skull.
Yeah, that I usually put somebody like that in a good story. I just wanted to make sure I had the name right. It was very amusing, and I really liked the idea of him getting that 24-hour period to do what he wants to do. Because it could be good, it could be bad, it could be he just wants to go to the movies. I liked that it was left up to the imagination, at least for now. And he could turn around and really bite Dresden in the behind later on, or maybe he's doing something that'll make the world a better place. I don't know. I'm looking forward to finding out.
Bob is technically an intelligent air spirit who resides inside a skull in Dresden's sub-basement laboratory, for those who are curious. And he is the most cheeky bastard I've ran into as of yet in the book world. I mean, he's something I aspire to be. That much of cheek. All right. So we got the characters. We know who each other's favorite character is. I'm with Bruce. I like Bob. Don't get me wrong. I like Dresden, but I do like Bob just a tad bit more, just personality wise.
Huge personality, and he's always good for a perspective on how a 15-year-old kid, no offense to Shadow and Son, on a unrestricted 15-year-old kid would be. It's Bob. Bob never gets out of that gear ever.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. Now, picture the smartest kid you know there, Jack. One of the smartest kids of your generation. Somebody you went to school with. We don't need names. Just picture this person in your head. Now make him a walking. What's the word I want to use? A walking
encyclopedia.
Walking encyclopedia. And the downside to all of this is he has a fascination with women that is healthy for a 20-year-old.
I know someone exactly like that. Wow.
You are someone exactly like that. Oh no,
Shut up.
Wait. He's not 15 yet, so maybe we'll get lucky in 2 years.
I hope not.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next aspect we're going to talk about is because three of us have been to Chicago. The other one who's loosely from Chicago in a Champaign kind of way. Don't get me wrong, Champaign's absolutely amazing, small city by itself. It's a college town, but it is Champaign. Champaign, Illinois is a really nice place to be, especially during the spring. No, this is not where this is not the part where we start saying moist with spells. That's later on.
Yeah, please send me that meme. I would love to see it because I have no idea. I feel old.
Okay. So
don't think the little guy doesn't watch most of all of our streams and appearances. So he was watching that night, and
were you going through your dad's D&D books, looking at spells to change out one word for moist?
No, he hasn't.
I've not done that.
No.
Yet. All right. With that being said, we talked about the good guys. Let's talk about the bad guys. We got the Madam Vampire, who is a member of the Red Court, but we will talk about the Red Court in a later stream because they're not really brought up they're slightly brought up, but they're not the main factor right now.
Yeah, I think I remember vaguely. Most people.
Then there is Victor Sells, aka the Shadow Man, and his people.
Mhm.
Now, when it comes to villain crafting, what do you think of Victor? Did he make a good victim?
Victim.
Not victim. Well, he kind of was and kind of wasn't.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
Yeah, I don't know that last few minutes. So.
Oh, you're killing me, Haas. All right,
Yeah.
I'll be nice. Okay, what do you think of the what that you know right now? What do you think of the bad guy?
I don't know enough to give a good answer, but I mean, I do think he was well done. That's certain.
The problem that I have with Victor is that he's where the third eye drug comes from. And I don't really have a heart to give him any sympathy, even if he is painted like a victim. It could be on MSN or Fox News or OAN and network. I don't care. If you're creating a drug, a vice, a narcotic, and people are getting hooked on it, you're not going to get a lot of sympathy out of me. I'm not the guy that you go to for sympathy on that topic.
Yeah.
And you don't have to think like me either, Jack. Just and please don't, because that'll get you in trouble. Keep being the genius you are.
Or don't think like this guy. This guy's a hot mess most of the time. Okay. My opinion of Victor was I didn't exactly feel sorry for him pretense, but I understood where he came from. I could see where he was coming from. Do I agree with it? No, not at all. But can I see what would drive a person to go that route? Yeah. Yes, I can. Now, the other person we're kind of sidestepping is Dresden's 30-pound house cat, Mister.
Oh, you didn't want to know my opinion on Victor. Okay.
I know your opinion on Victor, but we can go. What's your opinion on Victor?
I'm gonna be nice and just say I didn't like the character for completely different reasons than you guys did. I kind of having grown up reading a lot of detective novels and doing detective stuff and etc. I kind of had all but about the last 20 minutes of it figured out earlier on than most people, I guess. And I think that they gave him just a little bit too much power. I can see how it works in the greater scheme of things. The bad guys he's going to face are going to get more and more powerful. So for a first level, let's say a first level adventurer being Dresden, and this is his first, role playing gig and, his first adventure, so to speak, that it was adequate, etc. But it just seemed, I have this bad habit of looking at a book title and looking for the clue that it is, that being Stormfront. So I'm like, oh, okay. Because that's why it's called what it's called. They could have just said, volume 1 and gave it a really, really obscure title. But they went right for, kind of the jugular. I don't know if you've ever watched, a movie commercial and then realized while you're watching the movie, oh, I know what's going to happen next because I saw this and this and this and this in the commercial, and they pretty much kind of give it away. but you have to kind of, go through the waiting process of watching the movie to figure it out. So there was a lot of that for me, but I'm glad it ended the way it did, and all that stuff happened the way it did. I had a little bit of problem with how much power he had. Not that he was too powerful for Dresden, but just how much power the story allowed him to have so easily and so quickly that to me it seemed like that would be kind of a regularly occurring thing before the book and throughout the story, that there would be more and more people able to do exactly what the bad guy did with just a little bit of research and a little bit of work, and then boom, suddenly this guy is going to just be the first of many. But that's me. I'm a dad. I tell bad jokes, and even before I was a dad, I told worse jokes.
I actually didn't catch that one. Wow.
Before I want to think before, because I've always wanted to be a PI. The concept of being a PI was always somewhat attractive to me in the way I think. I get that now. If this was like 30, 40, 50 years ago, there might have been something to it. But
maybe back in the 40s and 50s, absolutely, that would have been the, obviously so many of the stories are from that era, but from the 60s, 70s, and on up, it was nothing but one sordid affair after another. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And if you ever want to, have a healthy relationship, it's not the occupation to have, because you'll never trust anyone ever again when it comes to that, because as my old boss says, everybody cheats. Everybody.
There's a line from a TV show, House, says that his line is "Everybody lies." All parents screw up all children, and everybody lies. And there's a few other comments, but we'll get to that.
That was a great series. That was a great series.
I wanted to be a detective as a kid. I thought the idea of being a detective was, Sherlock Holmes.
That's why I went into it. Before I'd read most sci-fi, I'd read all of Holmes or Arthur Conan Doyle.
So Dresden Files picks up, and he's already been 2 to 3, 4 years in his career. This is not the first day on the job. He already seems like he's been doing this for a while, at least long enough for the coffee pot to be ruined, because it's stale coffee, which does take time, believe it or not. So I'm not saying he was raised in this world. He knew what magic was from a kid. So he knew about everything. So it's not I'm not trying to give anything away from later books because it starts to explain more about him in later books. Would you say that's fair, Bruce?
Absolutely. And the next, I'm going to say something that probably is going to be viewed as a spoiler, but we could have started off our book review series with Full Moon and said you could go back to Stormfront, and the overarching campaign goal started in Full Moon to present day is not affected. Stormfront is an introduction to the series, and everything that happens in the series does have a small echo back into Stormfront, but the events of Stormfront do not greatly affect everything that goes on from Full Moon. And I hate to say that, but this is one of the few times where a book series starts out, and the first book is fun to read. It's great. It's got everything you want, and it's logical. But then when you're finished with the series or 2 books away from finishing, you look back and you're like, I don't really need to read Stormfront for a 3rd time. The other books you're reading 4, 5, 6 times trying to get all the details to solidify.
Mm-hmm. Or see if you missed anything.
Yeah, but Stormfront doesn't have any weighty echoes. It doesn't have anything that has at least yet came back. And I just need to say that later when we're done with the series, we can talk further on my theory on this. but I don't want to ruin it for you two because I think you guys are just now starting on a fantastic book series.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, Bruce. When it comes to all the books in this series, this one, do I need to spend 30 minutes in the Shire? No, but how else will you learn about the hobbits?
Yeah.
You go to the Shire,
You know,
you learn about the hobbits.
Yeah.
you know what? To be honest, having read Tolkien as many times as I did, I actually enjoy The Hobbit more.
Yeah.
Just
That's fair. I mean, that's incredibly fair. When I said that, I was thinking more of Lord of the Rings, not The Hobbit.
and don't you know, my first introduction to Tolkien was not Tolkien. It was a little book called Board of the Rings by the Harvard Lampoon. And if anybody here has ever read that, probably not. It's like a Mad Magazine parody of the Lord of the Rings, written by a bunch of perverts, and
Yes.
it is you know it made me want to read them all the more. And even though it was a completely opposite sort of take on things, I I'd rather read The Hobbit every time.
Well,
It's
that's
just
what you can read at various points in your life, and you get something great out of it.
exactly.
You can read it as an 8-year-old like I did, or as a 13-year-old like I reread it again, or you could read it as a 30-year-old like I did it again, and you can just enjoy that book at no matter what age you are mentally. If you have comprehension, you can enjoy The Hobbit. There's very few books, there's very few literary works where you can do that with. I think maybe Mark Twain has that ability with a couple of his works. I think very few other books that I know of can you actually read at different points in your life and still get something new and something enjoyable out of it. Otherwise, it's
Absolutely.
just mentally just
No.
frustrating. You're mentally frustrating yourself.
What did we
Exactly.
think?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about. Especially, exactly like right now. When I look back on The Hobbit, what Kat just said is exactly why I would rather read it, because uh, another story, another tale of a horrific war is the last thing I want to go through, even though my current D&D campaign is just that, right?
Yeah.
Undead dragons and their attempted takeover of the world. So yeah.
Well, I want to say what I want to get into a little bit of this is what did you guys think of the creatures? Like Tutu. Or once again, for the third week in a row, we're talking about a giant scorpion.
You're right.
Yeah. I think the monsters were some of my favorite part because I wanted to see where he was going to go, what limits. Because when you're doing a like a fantasy situation in a modern day, environment, that's where you have to draw lines and limits, because we don't see giant scorpions running down Main Street ever. And to to throw that sort of fantasy monster or situation into a real world situation, those two realities completely you know collide in one time. That only has to happen one time in the real world before everything in the world would change. Yeah, there's the Men in Black, make everybody forget that situation kind of solution, but that was kind of really only feasible there. Maybe you could hypnotize people with magic or something and make them all forget that that was a giant scorpion. It was just hallucination from swamp gas or something like that. You really have to be careful with those kind of things, those monsters, before the National Enquirer becomes the hot sheets.
That's that. And then in Dresden's world, the hot sheets might just be where you want to start reading. All right, I love what he did. In later books, they go more into the Fae. the Sealy Court and the Unsealy Court, which I don't know if you guys caught. Max's restaurant is a haven for all things
Arcane.
What was that?
Haven for all things arcane.
Arcane, yeah. And as many times as I've been to Chicago, I've never exactly found Mac's restaurant. And boy, have I looked last few times. With that being said, for restaurants, I mean, a lot of books will talk about food, but there's very few books out there that will describe a tavern or restaurant on how much detail that this place got. What did you guys think of that, or did you guys just get past that part and then think twice about it?
Say again.
And the Dresden Files, how they describe Max's Tavern. Was that something you guys enjoyed, or is that something you just got?
I got the feeling when I read about the tavern that you were going in somewhere that had a lot of character and history in it, and so you would go there and you'd run your hands along the oaken bar, sidestep around one of the bar stools, and one of the pillars is too close to the bar because there's like 13 pillars that are there to break up the magical energies that course through Chicago. And then you have to kind of like amble around to get it. It's a comfortable, but the furniture always feels like, when I read it, like the tables and the chairs are crowded a little bit too close to each other. It doesn't feel like an airy new wave bar. It feels like a place that's been around since the 1800s. It always feels like that to me whenever I read about Mac's Bar. And the thing that I get the worst feeling for is I want to taste the porter. I want to try Mac's Private Porter Blend. That's my own take on it.
What about you two up there?
You go first. Okay, wants me to go first. I used to frequent quite a few bars, and by quite a few, I mean like all of them. And what Bruce just said, it reminds me of a couple of places I went to where they were so old that the furniture was almost made for smaller people. Almost, not saying hobbits or anything like that, but everything was just jam packed. There was barely any room, and it was always full of various assundered types of people. And I really, well, it reminded me, like I said, of a few places I've been to. There's only a couple of ways. I was thinking about it. There's only a couple of ways you could do that sort of Max thing. You could obviously have the bar. But, other than, maybe like Ray's occult bookshop in the Ghostbusters, there's really no other kind of public place that you could have where people could go and, meet up in public, that wasn't, the local cult hideout or the church or something like that. So I guess that, he's probably drawing from, like I said, his own personal experiences of where he's been and wants the characters to, kind of have that home away from home. And for me, I stopped drinking, 10 years ago. So it didn't have the appeal as it might have in the old days for me. But, I get it. It sounds kind of like, it reminded me of another place that I saw in oh God, what was the name of that show? Was it
Cheers?
No. There was like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. There was a British show I used to watch a while ago. I forget the name of it. And there was this big sort of like speakeasy sort of, bar that it instantly reminded me of. And unfortunately, that's because I saw that TV show before I started reading these books. And I know it was probably influenced the other way around because the books, it takes a lot longer to write, 13, 17 books than it does to put out a TV show. Even if the show was 10 or 20 years old, the books are probably close to being older than that. I just, it was just, it was nicely done, and I definitely got the feel for the place, but it just wouldn't be a place that I'd be hanging out for, any other reason than getting information and,
I'll circle back to you really quick. What about you, Jack? What did you? I mean, not that you're old enough to go to taverns, bars, or inns of that nature.
He's been to a few nice restaurants though, so he could probably kind of.
Yeah, I've been to 2 nice restaurants.
Just 2?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly 2. And I don't even know if they count.
No, they do.
Okay.
Well, one doesn't because it was Red Lobster, and that's like,
okay.
Hey! Red Lobster's nice in its own way. You can pick out your own lobster. That's about it.
I don't do seafood, so. But
in Florida, you don't do seafood. Anyways, Jack, continue.
Yeah, the other one was a Mexican restaurant that I don't remember the name of.
I don't either. It was nice.
Yeah, it was nice. But I mean, I collect my words, because a lot of bars, taverns, pubs, those sort of things, they're all really old. Of course, not all of them, but most of them. I mean, if you go to Europe, you'll see a pub that's 1,000 years old, and as he and Bruce were saying, it was old, and that's what it would be. They'd all be really old, and especially this kind.
Yeah, that's fair. I liked it. I had the opportunity to go up to up to Washington D.C. when I was younger after I graduated from high school, and me and my aunt went to the Green Dragon Inn, the same bar. I think it was the same one, tavern that our founding forefathers went to drink rum punch and talk about independence. And there's certain places in the world where you can walk into and the history is just overwhelming. You could just tell that, a lot of history has been done there. The way it looks, the way it smells, just the aura of the place just rings of history. And when I think of I'm looking at Jack, that's why I said that. But when I think of Max's a tavern, I think of the same way. If you believe in magic or don't, I'm not, this is not where I'm going to ask you. It's like, do you believe in aliens or not? This is not where I'm going with it. If you believe, you believe. If you don't, you don't. There's a lot of people out there believing a lot of crazy things, and who am I to say who's right or wrong? At least out loud. But the way that he has that with the 13 pillars that have that been chiseled out to have different fairy tales on them, and just the overall design, I could see that as being not a theme restaurant, but one of those old German style restaurants, or one of those true German restaurants that you see every so often, or with the Green Dragon Tavern that's in Washington D.C., where there's so much history in there. It's not overwhelming, but it's whelming.
Is that a word?
Something?
I've never heard whelming before, but welcoming, or what do you mean?
Whelming.
Whelming, as in overwhelming, but without the over.
Interesting.
You ever been just whelmed?
No.
Oh. I don't think it's a word.
It is too.
I don't.
My English teacher used it once.
I'm not touching that one with a 10-foot battle lance.
Not that, you old pervert. But your age is more pervert because you've been at it for a while.
That's a good one.
He's a pervert. He's good at it. Awesome.
Talent.
Jack, what you will notice out of the friendship that me and your dad are building is we're probably going to rag on each other a lot. Like me and Bruce will rag on each other. It's just this is how I don't know about women, but this is how male friends act towards each other.
Yeah.
If you can't trip your friend and laugh at him, then he's not a real friend.
Exactly. All right, we talked about the monsters. We've talked about the hero. We talked about the villain. Was there anything? I know this is your first read through, and you have not read the other books. Well, Shadow, you started to read the second book, or in the middle of the second book.
Yeah, I wasn't having a lot of luck because when I do audiobooks or anything that has to do with words, I usually fall asleep within a half hour. So I would listen to the audio, fall asleep, and wake up, and 3/4 of it already done, and I'd have to rewind it and figure out where I was, and then life got in the way, and I'm like 3/4 of the way through with Full Moon, and I have to find it on my device and finish it up. But I will, and at some point I'll actually get the books. But right now I'm actually trying to find some really hard to find books, so I got to keep my budget open for when they do come up where I look, so I can grab them. And if I can get a book for free, or experience a book for free on YouTube or something like that, I'm gonna go that route to make sure that I like it. And since I already like them, then I just need to look for, like a large pile, like for example, these books.
Well, find a lot. Well, you don't have used bookstores in your area.
We don't have regular bookstores either. Yeah. We have a Barnes and Nobles, but that's like saying, we have a gap.
You get a PO. You need to get a PO box, so your people can send you stuff, and they can't, don't have to worry about them knocking on your front door.
I don't care. I sent my address out to a couple of people already.
Well, you should care, okay?
Yeah, I know I should, but I when one of them's a former police officer named Eric Tenkar, I'm gonna trust him to have my address. I'm not really gonna worry about him coming all the way here from New York to dox me. Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
There are specific cases,
right?
But in
general, so if any of you guys want to send me, Pringles can,
I got an empty one right over there that I went through last night as I binge watched Stranger Things.
That was a reference to a YouTuber who I think Bruce and I are probably the only ones here who know about.
I thought it was about our use.
Oh, no. Bruce, you watch Redonkulous, right?
Oh.
No, I haven't watched Redonkulous. The only YouTuber I've really talked about a lot of is Salty.
Oh, you haven't watched Terrence Pop?
Terrence Pop?
Yeah.
No.
Really?
Go ahead.
Oh, well, he used to send people Pringles cans filled with things. Well, not things, but a thing that you shouldn't really put in a Pringles can.
What?
We're not going to talk about it on the air. We'll talk about it after the stream. But if you guys know who I'm talking about, it's disgusting, but it's hysterical. And the fact that he didn't end up in federal prison is a wonder.
So many questions. I got so many questions. Not really. All right. So
that's what the after party's all about, folks. So,
what? Okay.
Yes, I do. He's a cop. I have a huge respect for law enforcement officers. Most of them. Okay, none of them. Just him. Just him, actually.
Let's see if we can get the young man to blush.
He's already. He's already.
All right. Was this, and really, Jack, this kind of discludes you because you got 20 minutes left. You had 20 minutes, my old man. 20 minutes.
Okay, we gotta talk about the girls. Come on, it's the best part.
No, we don't. We really don't have to talk about that.
Well, we're
talking about the girls.
Yes,
that's the only thing he really cares about.
Yeah, really, it kind of really is.
Yeah.
Once I said Provert. He's been at it for a while.
He has.
Again, after party.
All right. What did you think from all the other books you guys read over the years? And to sit down and listen to this one or read this one, just this book. I'm not talking about Full Moon and Bruce. I'm not going to bring up the other ones until they get there. All right.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. But I'm talking about this book. Is there anything in this book that you thought that was lacking for as much as that you guys been able to read? I get, Jack, that you're prudish. That's fine. That's a thing. I personally, when my as Toot Toot would say, I want a little bit more sporting in the book, but that's just me. I'm not a prude. But was there anything lacking in the building of said character, building of said world, the villain crafting, or the last 20 minutes that somebody hasn't got to? I'll start with you, Shadow.
I'm torn because I would have preferred that Dresden's origin story would have involved some sort of discovery of some horrible magical thing, and that's what drove him into his career, as opposed to it's hereditary. But at the same time, I realized that the hereditary connection gives him a lot more leeway and power levels. Kind of like Harry Potter. He was born a wizard, therefore he has it in his blood. It's unavoidable, and therefore his power levels and what he'll be able to get away with later on in the future would be greater. I did feel a little, let down that he didn't just, on a case, he just stumbled onto, magic and then, had to dedicate years of his life to combat the evil in the world that is magic. But, that's just me. I would have gone one way, they went the other, but I totally get it. You want Dresden to be a full-fledged powerhouse naturally when it comes to magic for later on in the story. We'll see in the end, probably that's how it's going to end up, that there's a good reason for his power to be, gained that way. But, I just like those kinds of stories where, something, drastic happens to a normal person that pushes them into their role in life, like Batman, the whole, parents thing. That to me, that's like the ultimate origin story. Nothing, that, and of course, obviously, true love and romance. Nothing is more motivational to me in a story than something like the two that I just mentioned.
All right.
All right.
Jack, anything you want to throw into that?
I have like one thing that I don't think I should say.
Say it. Now you have to. That's a rule. If you say I shouldn't say it, you have to say it. It's in the description of all his videos.
Is it?
Of course not.
It will be after this.
Oh no.
So it is written, so it shall be.
I'll say it the nicest way possible and say, actually, no, I'm not going to say it. But what I do think...
What a tease.
I know, right?
I know.
He gets it from his mom, I'm sure.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot what I was going to say.
No, you didn't, you liar.
No, not about that. I know what that was, but the thing I was going to say after that. Oh, yes, I remember. So what I do think is that, not that, well, something I was going to say a bit earlier, but I think it might suit here, is once I got to the end, this wasn't really the case, but it kind of felt like, almost that it was, whenever there was a type of, not necessarily red herring, but something that was thrown in there that did lead somewhere, but that maybe for a bit it seemed like that was not the end, because obviously it wasn't nowhere near the end, but this is not where it's solved, but where things start to come together. Then turns out that wasn't the case. To me, it felt like it was just a bit obvious that it was a red herring. Because you'd see this person and it'd just be really odd, at least maybe to me, you see this guy, it's really obvious that that's not where it's heading, or it just can't be heading in that direction because it'd be a bit too underwhelming. But obviously once you get to the end, or to where I left off, which is almost the end.
Where did you leave off, if I might ask? What was the last thing you heard?
Last thing I heard is he was in the house, the lake house. Yeah, I was
okay. So
yeah.
Okay.
It's like the big showdown.
Yeah.
Because when you say 20 minutes of book, you're either talking about right at the clock at the last big fight or
Yeah,
the
I think it was.
afterness of it. That's normally within the
Yeah,
last
I think it
20
was like
minutes.
because I remember stopping. I can't. Yeah, I remember stopping there because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to finish it in time. Now looking back, I probably could have. Actually, no, I needed to get ready for this. I wouldn't have had time. But I stopped there because it seemed like a good place to stop.
Well, you don't listen to books while you're in the shower? I do.
Oh, he was.
No, I was.
He was.
It was
Okay.
after.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not that I really need to know your bathing habits, but I know me. I listen to stuff while I'm in the taking a shower in the bath.
Man, it's only practical, especially for something like this.
Yeah. What did you think? Okay, the narration. I gotta give some James Masters some love on this. The narration of the guy telling the story. What did you think of him?
The actual voice guy.
The voice actor.
Yeah, it was very
really
good. Yeah, I had that's one of the things.
He directed me specifically to that version.
I've listened to a couple of books where the narrator himself completely made me want to stop listening. And I don't know where they get some of these people. It's just the only person they could find, But then I've also found people that were phenomenal, and then, then I can't find them again. Like with some of the Jack Vance novels, there was one particular narrator for the Dying Earth books that was just absolutely wonderful. And then the next book, it's somebody else completely, and I couldn't find that same person again. And I just
on where you could find.
I just couldn't get into it. And they really, I don't know who hires the people to do it, or people just take it upon themselves to do it. Like
probably
Rageaholic, Razor Fist. He's a phenomenal narrator, but if you listen to him otherwise, you'd be like, really? I mean, he's a very good speaker, but he doesn't exude that sort of aura when he's doing his ranty videos. But then when he does his narration, he's stellar. And this guy is no different. I don't know anything about the actual guy as a narrator, but I hope it's the same guy through all the books. That way I don't have to buy them right away, and I can wait until I can find them, dirt cheap, because,
There's only one where I think he doesn't narrate it.
They did a redo of it, so you gotta be careful which one you get. But he actually came back and redid it.
Yeah, fan outrage was pretty high.
It was almost like giving Sonic real teeth.
Yeah, that was pretty creepy.
Oh, I remember. Yeah.
I skipped Bruce. I didn't mean to, but I didn't see the hand, so I didn't. I wondered if he was wandering off.
Oh.
What the question I asked really quick, Bruce, was there anything from the first book that you thought was lacking from all the other books you've ever read that this book could have used?
I already mentioned it, but its weight on the overarching plot is minimal.
Okay.
It gives you the main characters, and it doesn't contribute much else. Now, I haven't read the comics, and a lot of the short stories I've not read either. But, spoiler, 3i is not exactly something that visits later on in the series that I've read so far. Maybe it does. When I was typing and looking on some of the wikis here, Travis, I'm sorry, dude. But I was looking at seeing what exactly was going on with 3i, because I always talked about this with my friends. It seems like it's before he allowed this game or this series to be made into an RPG, it always felt like this was a series of books which were to be used as source material for an RPG game. And that's just how it feels. This really feels like somebody enjoyed White Wolf in the 90s, and they were trying to remake a system for urban fantasy that you could play with. And so Stormfront is probably the ultimate source book on like just a quick touch on everything, but it gives you no depth. It's not a table breaker stream. So you have a really good smattering of issues in Stormfront, and you have a main conflict which is resolved by the end. and then you have some other questions that are popping up in the final moments before you close the book and go into full moon. I recommend people read it, but it won't affect your enjoyment on the rest of the series. If that makes any concussive sense, I need you to be aware of that before somebody gets into it.
That's fair. I get where you're going with that one.
I'd like to hit up Kat's question, the one that's up on the screen. Honestly, I'm going to go with Murphy. Even though there's things about her character I didn't really like as much as some of the other characters, it's clear, it's pretty evident that she is, she's the one, so to speak. I'm just going to leave it there, and that being said, I think he did his best work on her character, or second best work on her character.
I disagree.
Okay.
I like Karen. I like Karen a lot. And if I was into little petite, waifish, blonde-haired women, she would be a absolute delectable person to have as a friend. And the way that he writes her, the way that he
right.
writes
No,
her,
I wasn't talking on a physical level because
No.
I'm in full agreement with you, but I just think I just felt that's what he was trying to get across. From stories like two of my favorite TV shows, that being Firefly and again with Nathan Fillion, Castle. I could just feel that sort of chemistry that he feels like he's trying to build that up between the two. I could be totally wrong. But it just that's the vibe I was getting off that those two.
I can't talk to you until we've got caught up with you and myself on all the books in the series. Because
Okay.
Yeah.
there's some events that happen, and you're going to want to read how her bond weakens and strengthens with him, and how she evolves as a character. This is a really well-written series. And when I say that, I mean, you could see that over the course of time, he has a board system with push pins and threads where everybody goes and how everybody interacts with Dresden. And the main strength of Dresden is never his arcane power. His arcane power is just a tool he uses. If he was a six-shooting cowboy in the Old West, he'd be a six-shooting cowboy in the Old West, but he wouldn't rely on his pistol arm to get through the majority of his battles. Dresden's ability really is just secondary to his bonds he has made with his friends. And that is where I think her question about the strongest written character, and in the first book, if I didn't know any better, I would say Bob, Karen, and Morgan would be the three characters that you'd be having the most interaction with throughout the rest of the book series. I think Bob is probably the one that I was, when I was reading it for the first time back in 2009, I was reading it and I thought, man, Bob is really just a cool character. This guy is, centuries old. He's a virtual mentat in this world. For you Dune people, get Dune. For you people that aren't sure what mentats are, understand that I refer back to Dune sometimes because it does echo. And so you have Bob, which is just a storehouse of info, and he can just talk to people about various concoctions and a little bit of history. But damn it, you got to let Bob out of the skull, and he just wants a little bit of free time, and it goes into depth as to Bob's actual real life history a few books down the road, and it gets kind of dark for a while. But I think Bob is probably in Stormfront my favorite character, even more so than Dresden, who's in Stormfront. I had just finished reading the Servant of the Shard by Robert Salvatore, and Servant of the Shard had disappointed me, and that was the last of the series that I read. and I don't care about Salvatore books anymore. I thought maybe they would get better, but they just keep echoing the same themes over and over again. And then worse yet, Bob Salvatore started putting his politics in his books, which I really fucking hate. Not that he's into politics that I'm not, but he puts his politics in his book the way he does. So I'm just going to make you try to realize that I'd come off of a really bad book series, and you can criticize me for that opinion, but I'm coming into this, and Dresden seems like he's an unfocused middle school boy, because you've got Mrs. Rodriguez and you've got Karen there, and he doesn't know which way he wants to pivot. He wants to pivot between the two. He wants to kind of be everywhere at once. All dudes kind of feel that way. I could cheat on people. And I hate to echo Shadow's statement, all men cheat. No, not all men cheat. Not all of us do. But he does this exercise with Dresden, where Dresden's looking at the more appealing aspects of each of the ladies and not weighing them the way a person that's been through financial hardships would. Dresden's broke as hell in this book. He talks about it in chapter 1, how finally he doesn't have to hunt for rent. Rent walked in his front door. Monica's cells dropped the money on the desk, and he lives in Chicago. So you might think it's a large sum of money, but $5,000 won't get you far in Chicago.
No,
it's really well.
Won't.
But that's why I was asking Connell earlier what year this is supposed to take place in.
He starts in modern time.
I would say the year it was written was what, 2000 or 2005?
Yeah.
And John Leah hits something that later readers will agree with. Molly Carpenter becomes Butcher's favorite character to write. And you get to feel that way, because he realizes her appeal. He realizes the appeal of writing a woman coming into her own from adolescence who's got the gifts of magic. And so he capitalizes on some things with her. She'll never be probably as powerful as Dresden. Well, she might, but her magic is not the brute force slam you in the face with a wall of fire that Dresden is. Her stuff is more fine-tuned, more precise, more surgical. But it's not as powerful.
Sorry about that. My power went out here.
No apology. You're good.
But no, I agree. People are actually talking about the chat. Yeah, there's a lot of, I don't want to spoil the book for Shadow and Sun, and there's a lot of people bringing up topics for later books that I hope that they read. I really do. I don't want this to be, the one and done. But Bruce is right for well-written characters. I think most of his characters are most of his main characters are well written. He doesn't, half-ass any one of them. Anyone from Tutu to Gentleman, the mobster, to Dresden, and the list will continue. Anybody that he, what was that?
Gentleman Marcone.
Yeah. But anyone he talks about or writes about more than one book gets flushed out fairly well.
As they should.
Yeah.
All right. Now, let's talk about the other aspect of why I wanted to bring this up or do these conversations as doing the book review is what game system would you use to run Dresden? Proper Dresden. Well, Dresden as a whole. Let's say that.
I'll let you guys go first before I get into.
Are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure you want to do that? Because you're going to hate me.
Please.
No, please. Because I am dungeon mastering in 2 weeks for you. Can you see that? Bruce, can you see that?
Did you plan this?
Nice.
Do you know what this is?
Yeah, BTS. I'm familiar with it.
Okay, but you hate Palladium.
I do. It didn't happen overnight. A few months back. It's over the past 30 years I've played the games.
Ah,
Yes, Jack, we planned this.
I have other games I can choose from. I've got Chill,
Sure.
the original, and the next version, which the original version was great when I was a kid, but then I re-looked at it and I'm like, yeah, no, it's safely left in the past for a reason. It was a flash in the pan kind of game. It did real good for a while and then it disappeared. They tried to bring it back, but Palladium's not just one of the game systems I'm most familiar with. I really like a lot of the over the top isms, the gonzo-ness of it, but at the same time, a lot of the hard, crunchy details that all of my players had always wanted while playing Dungeons and Dragons and a few other games. Mind you, we've played and used almost 75% of all the books I've ever bought for Palladium, and all of them came in handy. We ran a game with this book way back in the day when I first got it that was, basically Kids on Bikes or Stranger Things kind of a campaign where all the characters were under 16 years old. And this would be the system I would use. There might be other systems out there that I'm unfamiliar with, but this one would cover it for everybody I know. It'd be the best game that I could run, other than maybe running like a D20 modern game, because I realize that Dresden, he carries around a 357, or is it a 38?
It's a 38. I thought.
Yeah, I think
Right.
so too.
He might as well be carrying a cap gun, in my opinion. You guys know me and how I feel about certain toys or pieces of equipment, because they're really not toys. I may treat them that way because of my prosperity and my ability to do so. But trust me, when they're actually in my possession, they're not really toys. It's just my enthusiasm. But if I was such a person as himself, a 38 would be the very last thing I would choose to have as a backup, because he's dealing with a lot of magical critters and bad guys and stuff like that. This opinion goes along with my opinion of just about every Stephen King novel. Every situation, every bad thing in a Stephen King novel could be solved with a 45 caliber bullet. And this would be no exception. These stories, if I was to run a Dresden style campaign without Dresden being in the book or in the game, because I never do that, it would be somewhere, some other part of the United States, and nobody's ever heard of Dresden. Maybe they've heard of the other NPCs, but I would run it out of this game book because it handles all of the magic the way I think they were trying. I don't know if Simbita actually read the Dresden novels when he wrote this, but I doubt it. Maybe it was influenced by this game or another game, or just no game whatsoever.
He
But
was
this game, he was.
He's an RPer.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna hijack you for just a second. Okay.
Feel free, because there's a whole lot I don't know.
This series of books was something that he didn't really plan on doing. He was going to write a bunch of swords and horses, English lit loving books. And for the longest time, he had a English teacher that was telling him his work sucks, his work sucks, his work sucks. And for years in college, she would just tell him, like, this isn't going to sell. This isn't going to sell. I have contacts. I have friends. Go ahead, submit your stuff. And he had submission letters for days. And then one day he's like exhausted, like junior or senior year. And he looks at her. He's like, okay, fine. I'm working on my master's for English. You tell me what I need to do. Tell me what I need to do. She's like, okay, well, here, dude, follow all these steps. Follow all these steps right here. And he's like, what? That's it? And she's like, yeah, you'll have a bestseller. And he's like, no, I won't. She's like, try me, Jim. And so he goes off, and over the course of like a summer, he writes Stormfront. And she reads it, says, I'm going to submit this to a friend of mine. And then it became an international bestseller, and that really taught him he was right. But up until that point, he was playing Birthright, Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
He was a big D&D guy. He liked Amber, and he was going to these writing camps, and he's in line with this lady as they're getting food from the lunch table because they're doing their thing like Connell, the Ragnarok stuff. And he bumps into her, and he's talking, and he's like, "Oh, you're talking about Amber Diceless role playing, blah 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 blah. I didn't know you like to play that." And she's like, "If I would have known you liked Amber Diceless role playing, we could have gotten your first book published a lot sooner."
So I was right this whole damn time, and you guys just let me hang there, twisting in the wind.
So anyway,
I didn't know this.
I'll find a
and to answer the question you had earlier about the gun, at this point he has a 38 Chef Special revolver.
Chief.
Yeah.
Chef Special. I want to see that.
Man, I'm telling you, I never went to bed last night. I stayed up and binge watched all 4 seasons of Stranger Things.
How many?
4.
Is that even possible? What, do you got a time machine?
No, just I didn't sleep. I did fast forward through some parts that I just
okay. Because I'm trying to do the math, and at 8 times 45 minutes times 4, roughly. Yeah, there's no way you could have done all that.
I did fast forward through some parts, but
okay. All right.
But he does get a big boy gun. He does get a as the story continues, as the books continue.
Red Hawk.
He does get a .44 Magnum revolver.
See, I called it.
No, Dresden with the 1911, man. I'd love to have a 1911.
But real quick, Bruce. So this whole time you guys are talking about Dresden, and I'm saying he writes just like Roger Zelazny, and you guys I was right the whole damn time. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm glad that you're right. To be fair,
because Zelazny is my all-time favorite author, and the fact that he's probably one of the 3 people on Earth I've ever heard of who actually like the Amber role-playing diceless game. That's like, damn, you're a good judge of character there, Shadow. So that makes my day, because my favorite author inspired one of your guys' favorite authors. That's freaking phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of convention discussions on YouTube where Jim Butcher talks about all this stuff, and I want to say it's at a Fairy Con in 2013 where he talks about it. But he talks about writing, making a protagonist, antagonist, and he talks about it. But he talks about RPGs in a lot of his stuff. He says if you want to be a good GM, then never wrap up your games after the players have done something big. Always wrap them up before something big starts, which is why whenever I run a game, I talk to you, and we'll go through the game system. We'll go through the combats and such. And right before we hit like the big fortress where all the giants are at, I stop. Like, you guys are coming across the spot here that I need to stop. We're done. And he's like, oh,
yeah, I actually got to meet Zelazny back when I was about 14, 15 years old. Mm-hmm. And I not just meet him, but sit and talk to him for about an hour and a half while he was waiting for his ride. And I was the only person there who wanted to talk to him. Everybody else got their autograph and got the hell off stage. That's awesome, because you guys are in for a treat then from everything he does, because
I'm pretty certain
he was possibly the greatest author ever. That's my humble opinion.
I'm a big fan of Jim Butcher with the Dresden Files. I have no interest in Codex Alara or anything else he's doing. I don't care. You'll
Gotcha.
never catch me watching or reading anything he's done that isn't about the Dresden Files, because I have no interest in Pokemon and I'm not big on cats and steamships. I don't give a shit. But I can't be paid enough to give a shit. But whenever he got back into writing for Dresden Files, I was really happy, and my friends were telling me, okay, the books are the way they need to be. I'm like, okay, that's good. I'll buy them here when I get over to the bookstore, and that'll be happening because I live right across the street from a bookstore. I just haven't made it up. I've got a bunch of miniatures to paint first, but this is something I probably should have told you. You probably will want to look in the private chat, and there's a video that is up there where he talks about all this stuff, and just listen to Jim Butcher talk, and
Don't push up
the Dungeon Master
the stream
in his discussions, and you can hear him try to help people with creating a narrative. A lot of people don't like to talk about stories in their RPGs. I think it's necessary. I don't think you have to do it, but for the style of game that I play, no matter what engine it is, I could be running Chainmail from 1974 or 71, whatever, or I could be running Bruce's version of the game. And it's either way, I need to hook you with good characters, good story, have you have some fun with your characters, and then right before we do something really big, oh, well, we'll see you next week. And he tells everybody that all of his chapters end with a question. And that question's a yes, no question. Yes, you can succeed. No, you cannot succeed. Or worse, it's a yes, but, or a no, but. But all of his chapters end that same way.
So what game system would you use?
What game system would I use?
Yeah, if you're going to run a Dresden campaign.
I would actually probably use the basic system from Cthulhu, or from the guys that did Rune Master, because it's a very simple, elegant system. You have a percentage use for skills, and you do have a magic system in there, but you don't have a lot of spells being cast. It's not 10,000 spells at once. You know, most times in the books, he'll cast a spell maybe once or twice a chapter towards the end, but he doesn't really do a lot of spell casting. He practices, he makes crafting work, but he does a very good job of making it seem like it would be something suited for that. And at the same point, the Cthulhu or RuneQuest system is just a redone version of D&D. So I could really just use the basic D&D game to run a Dresden Files style modern game. And I probably could do that fairly easily, and you guys would hate me because you'd be like, damn it, he's doing it. He's running a game with this system, and it's working for him. Okay.
Maybe. For me, as much as I like Call of Cthulhu, the game the little guy and I played a while back, it's a little too, I don't know what the word is. I don't know. It seems to me it's a little. It's better for games that would take place, you know, back in that era as opposed to modern times. Let's put it that way. Okay. People are more physically fit, more intelligent, more quick on their feet, more knowledgeable and healthier, and able to do things a lot better than they were. No offense to, you know, all of our ancestors who were alive in those eras, but it just seems it would be a lot slower and more, you know, more of a noir type style of play than what I picture, or how I've been imagining the Dresden novels being more action packed, more running, more, you know, throwing punches and kicks and falling through windows and just all kinds of stuff that H.P. Lovecraft would have fainted had he, you know, had to, you know, endure one of those situations, because, you know, let's face it, he was kind of a pussy.
I agree with all of that last statement, except for one thing, Shadow. I question the current generation's intelligence.
I don't mean the current generation. I mean people we know who have seen things, done things.
Right.
Not, you know, who've had their nose bloodied a couple of times in life, who've maybe had to run from the cops, people who've maybe had to help the cops, people who've maybe had to take someone outside, because they didn't want to bust up the furniture.
Yeah, I
Hello,
understand that one.
Crafty.
What, Bruce?
Crafty's here.
No, Crafty just showed up in chat. Hey, Crafty.
Okay, maybe Pulp Cthulhu would be better suited, but I still see the mentality of the people, their manners and their just the way things were back in the good old days, the 40s and the 50s, 20s, etc., where people were more polite and more gentlemanly like and things like that. Don't get me wrong, I read a ton of pulp, and I wish we'd go back to those eras. But the way people are now, especially like in the next book with the werewolves and stuff, they're monsters. Let's put it that way. And there are a lot of people out there in the real world right now that are more monstrous than the people in the old days of the pulp Cthulhu era, I think. But that is a good maybe second system I'd look into as opposed to regular Cthulhu, just because I can't get that H.P. Lovecraftian,
It's not even fucking nowadays.
mentality. Sorry, guys. Here, it's your phone. You okay? I just powered it up. But yeah, maybe Pulp Cthulhu.
I just thought the chat just got a whole lot more classier. I mean, we had fancy music.
Yeah, yeah. He's got an alarm set for like 1 o'clock in the morning, and he doesn't do anything about it because he's unconscious.
Why do I have it?
I don't know,
Oh,
but I'm always
getting
up at about 1 o'clock in the morning. That's like when I'm trying to go to sleep, and then I can't find his phone, and then yeah. Hold on, let me see what the Crafty saying.
I'm pulled up.
Bro, I know about both systems. I just didn't think of that system, Crafty. Personally, like that's why I picked Beyond the Supernatural for from Palladium, is because it's more like, I hate to say this, but the television show Supernatural, where they wouldn't hesitate to get into a fight and lots of other just more modern street level kind of craziness that I've had to deal with in my life versus H.P. Lovecraft's teetotaling, investigative style.
I ran Dresden Files. I ran Dresden Files through Pathfinder, the first edition, which took a great deal of prep work because I had to figure out. Yeah. I had to figure out that everything was like modern work, what police officers and what jobs fighters would be, what barbarians and so forth and so on. And it worked out well. I mean, the people I was running for enjoyed the hell out of it. They didn't want it to stop. It just, just ran out of time. But yeah, I use Pathfinder. I normally just use a system that I know. You always go with what you know, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I realize there's a whole lot of systems out there. Kat was talking about Savage Worlds, which is a system I'd like to purchase somewhere down the road in the near future. But I can only go with what I'm really, really familiar with. And Palladium is a system I've been familiar with for, I want to say, close to 30 years. And also, as anybody who's seen me before, I tend to go gonzo with whatever system or game or anything I'm running or working on, and that's just my style. I pump steroids into every aspect of everything that I'm doing because I've gone through the low level, gritty, dirty, nasty, struggling campaigns and games for decades, and I'm just done with it. I'm tired of it. I want to see my players happy, and I want to see them succeed, but if they take a wrong turn, I will turn them into a pile of ash without batting an eye. And for me, Palladium is one of the systems that lets me really, really stretch the
Yeah,
bounds of it.
I get that. No, I had a player who's like, well, this, Dresden be really well done out of World of Darkness. I'm like, that might be so, but here's your options. Either you give me 6 months to learn the system,
Right.
or we could play it tomorrow. What he's like, well, if you can, then we just play it tomorrow. I'm like, fine, all right. And I just threw out like a not small binder, but like 4 or 5 pages of what classes translate to what jobs. And I think I got rid of sorcerers. I think I actually took out a class. Everybody had to be human. Well, everybody had to be a variation of human. There's no dwarfs. There's no elves. You could be a half elf.
I'm out. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
But you had to be a variation of a human.
I would only allow humans in the beginning as well.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense, really. At least for that time.
It depends on how much time you have actually to throw at something. It would have took me 6 months at that time because I had a 3-year-old daughter, and you can't sit down and read anything when your kid's that little. Rose, are you spending 6 months on learning? Just to learn the game. Basically, just learn the game and how to transfer it for Dresden, where I knew Pathfinder because I've already been playing it for 4 years at this point. And Pathfinder is so much like 3.5 that I just basically was easier for me to just hit the ground running with this one. The biggest thing was it's like, okay, clerics or priests, or doctors, not a problem. Police are fighters or police, so forth and so on. Rangers are police / then druids are like your park rangers. And I just went through the classes and did what made sense. I think I chucked out sorcerer, and you're only allowed to play human or a human type class, which was half elf, just because as you do notice in the books as you keep reading, there is a
sort of fairy type aspect, not the little things with wings, but the sort of Irishy kind of mythological thing.
There's some interbreeding between the courts and humans. Cool. And that's where I came to the idea. But that's like later into the books. That's not like, the first couple books. You run into that a little bit later on. Or am I off the mark, Bruce?
I think you're pretty close. I think if you're going to be focusing on the Irishness of the setting, really, you need to actually study some. You need to study some Eastern Germanic mythology because he delves into that more as the series goes on.
Yeah,
but I think that you're pretty close.
And no player wants to hear, "Hey, I can't play this," or "You can't do that." No, I want to do everything.
Yes and no. Like with Crafty's upcoming Conan game, the thought of running an elf never occurred to me. So, us more, us the gamers in this group of people, we can deal with certain words, and one of those words is no.
Yeah,
we're pretty good at it. We get it. Eventually we'll find that perfect game or perfect game master or perfect group of people to play with. And it doesn't matter what actual game. I was talking about this earlier with Max. The right players will make any game worth playing. I'll play Monopoly with the right group of people. It really doesn't matter what game. What matters is, certain people out there who we've been hanging out with a lot. We're there to have fun. And
Um, yeah.
that for me that trumps everything. I don't care how good the game is if I'm not literally actually having fun. What the hell am I doing there?
Oh
You know,
yeah. No.
my life
I,
does not have so much fun in it already that I'm willing to subject my free time to hours and hours and hours of something I absolutely hate as entertainment. If it's not entertaining and therefore fun, I got other things to do. I'll go mow the damn lawn. That's not fun. It needs doing, but when it comes to being entertained, having fun, the right group of people always makes up the difference. I'm playing Pathfinder, right? Okay, that's not my game of choice. It's not even a game system I absolutely love. I like it, but if Bruce says, okay, you know what, I'm going to run a 1E game. Oh, I'll be first in line for that crap. But he wants to run Pathfinder. I want to hang out with people I like. Therefore, I'm getting to play a paladin with people I like, and that trumps it all.
I wanted to go back and answer this really quick. She missed it, and I'm the Irishness
Dresden.
human no sorcery. Okay, in the Dresden Files, the way that the way that magic works is, if you look at the root word of wizard, it means wisdom, to be a wise man. And to me, I always thought wisdom, when you go into Pathfinder or 3.5 or anything that does wizards, they always use intelligence instead of wisdom, which I always jokingly disagree with. I always thought, if I'm a wizard, I want to use my wisdom, because you spend years and years and years that, studying, you become wise. And sorcerers just don't really work, in my opinion, in the Dresden campaign I ran. I might change my mind about it later on, but as of right now, I mean, if I did it through 5e, okay, I would never run Dresden through 5e. I mean, I'm sure it'd work, but no, I just can't. I'm not going to make that jump. I like the crunchiness of Pathfinder. I like the skills and everything else that Pathfinder has to offer. That's why I did. And she oh, I'm taking okay. What's the last one? Travis. I can see playing system for Dresden take. I already had already. Oh, okay, I get that. That's cool. You said that you
It's
had.
already done. I mean, it literally is already done. If I don't know if either of you have the book Beyond the Supernatural, it's all there. It's already all the work is done, and to make you guys really, 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 really. Colin and I were talking about this earlier. I'm actually planning on trying to create a campaign that is a cross of Dresden, Supernatural, and the Venture Brothers, all using the Palladium engine.
Drink.
And yeah, I know, but I've been inspired. I'm going to try and work it out, and I'll keep you guys posted.
That works. You said earlier that you might have to leave us earlier in the chat than earlier in time. Is that still a question issue?
Yeah, no, we're good. If I was going to leave, I would have left exactly 13 minutes ago.
Okay, I just
Since I didn't watch the clock, we're good.
I always throw
What
the
is the
clock
Venture
out.
Brothers? Oh my God, you blasphemer! Okay, Travis, just type that into your search engine.
He forced me to do this as well.
And you'll see what I'm talking about. And if it lowers your opinion of me, I totally understand. I'm a big Gonzo nerd, and that is my current absolute addiction.
I wouldn't mind showing you a small clip on this stream, but we saw what happened to Shauna last night, so I'm gonna be good.
Let those people who want to do the research. You'll either love it or you'll hate it, and I absolutely love it and hate it for completely different reasons. The only reason I hate it is because they canceled it, and I love it because it's possibly the funniest thing I've ever seen with my eyes on a screen.
Now, Jack, how are you with spoilers? Are you okay with spoilers, or do you just not want to know?
You know, it's interesting. What usually ends up happening is I will look up as much stuff as I possibly can about something just to watch or read or play it the next day. One time I always use these as an example is I watched a ton of videos about the Predator movies. The very
Good
next day,
movies.
we see a pack of all three. At the time, there was three, all three of them, and then we bought them and watched them that week.
All right, okay. Which one is your first? No. I would like to say no judgment here, but out of the Arnold Schwarzenegger, Danny Glover, and I don't remember who was the key guy in the third one. Technically, there's 5, but we have 6, 7 now. Anyways, out of those 3, which of the Predator movies did you like?
I can't remember the second. Oh no, I just remember the second one. I liked the first one. The third one was weird to me, and the second one was
completely unrealistic. How the hell Danny Glover wasn't the first victim in that movie, I don't know.
You don't like
the
Danny
highest-paying
Glover?
actor.
I don't know what that's in reference to.
The actor who the movie starred. Yeah, the first one's classic. The second one's trash. The fact that what was he, a 60-year-old guy, completely out of shape.
Actually, for Danny Glover, his physique in part 2 was about the best he ever got.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you realize that or not, but that man has never been a physical powerhouse.
Yeah, that's my point.
That's about it. But he's never been in really super shape. And what they did with him in that movie, to where they were like, okay, we're going to get you on something for your shoulders and your chest and make you look like, you at least know what iron looks like. They actually did good with Danny DeVito. They didn't do miracles.
Danny DeVito?
What?
Not Danny DeVito, Danny Glover. But they make him look like he's worked out once or twice. Now, he didn't do much after that second time, but he at least looks the part.
Back when Danny DeVito was in a Taxi, back when he was younger and somewhat in good shape, and it wasn't the Penguin. He was never in great shape, but I'm just saying back when he was in, healthy-ish shape for him back in Taxi, I could see him doing a Predator movie. The Predator can't find him because he just hides underneath everything. That's not nice. So
Yeah,
the reason I say about spoilers is I
sure.
kind of want to touch into. What was that?
I was just going to say, I'm pretty sure we're all in agreement. The first movie was the best. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made any others.
I kind of like the one where they're all those people were picked up and taken to a foreign planet. I kind of like that.
I didn't see that one, so it's hard for me.
Predators was good.
I don't remember.
It's not great, but it's good.
Yeah.
I didn't care for the Alien versus Predator movies. I mean, I thought they were cool when I first saw them, but the shine wore off fairly quickly. But I like it when they're on the what?
I haven't seen the Alien vs. Predator movies yet.
They're worth watching once. And just once. I want to really quick, since we only got about 12 minutes left, I want to somewhat touch into Fool's Moon, because when we come back to the Dresden reviews, this will be the next book that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And we're going to do them in order. I think next week we're actually going to let Jack pick the topic of what we're going to be talking about.
Uh-oh.
No.
And as long as it's not about brony stuff, I'm cool with about anything. My Little Pony, you want to talk about that? I'll bring my 11-year-old daughter, and you guys can talk. I got nothing.
I used to, but no.
Yeah, no, you don't want to know. We're not going to talk about it now.
Okay.
It's yeah.
It doesn't sound good. I'll tell you that.
It's a something. There's far
Yeah,
worse
moving
things
along.
out there. There's far worse things
It's
out
where
there.
we get monkeypox.
Be nice, Bruce. Be nice. I'd like to make money
Not
off this
wrong.
chat someday. Be
Not
nice.
wrong.
So with did you know that they originally hired Jean-Claude Van Damme to play the part of the Predator in the first Predator movie?
There's actual footage out there.
I think I heard
He's
that. Yeah.
dressed up. He looks like a praying mantis in a rubber suit in the middle of the jungle, and he was having real trouble with the heat.
I'm glad they went the direction they went. But anyways, back to main topic. ADD just kicked in. By the way, Full Moon is the Fool. FOOL. Fool's Moon is the next book in the Dresden Files. It has. I'm not going to give much spoilers away, but it's also one of those books that they made the TV series. There was an episode about it, and it's also been around longer than 10 years. I get if you're new, I don't want to ruin anything for you if you're new to the series, and it's definitely worth reading, especially if you like werewolves, and not those weird werewolves that you see on bad teen movies. No Twilight bullshit. Well, a little Twilight bullshit, but not in a bad way.
How can anything be Twilight and not bad?
You have to read the book and find for yourself.
Okay.
No, those books will not enter my house.
No. Dresden, the Dresden Fool's Moon.
Yeah. That's fine. Yeah.
I'll explain the Twilight bullshit after Jack reads the last 20 minutes of the last book in the next book.
Yeah. We'll do that faster next time.
I get that you have summer school and other things you have to do this summer, and I'm sure that will have its own list of things that you need to get done. But
well, summer school only starts in July, so I'm fine until then.
But either way, I think you'd enjoy the series. This really is not a grown-up book series, but it's definitely for a mature, older teenager to adult series. There's things I understand you didn't enjoy about the first book, and it was retrospective on me and your dad's point. It was like, I forgot that was a thing.
It's all right. You know what? There's a lot of things that are worse. It was tastefully done. I mean, it could have been omitted, but that would have taken away from the story. And it basically fade to black, and that's what we require at this moment.
That makes sense. I think they're done tastefully.
This book has a lot of gumshoe in it, and when you start reading it, if you have some years on you, if you're seasoned, you can hear a Harrison Ford horrible narrator when you first start it, because it tries to hit you with a Nor gumshoe feeling. And that really hit me when it gets into discussion of Jennifer Stanton and Tommy Tom's bodies in the room. When it starts talking about how the two bodies are together, united, and they both died together with their hearts exploded. Spoiler alert, it's the first, like the third chapter of the book. And that's where you get to meet Karen. It's a really well done scene. The third time I read it, the second or third time I read it, I reread that chapter because it was gore done properly. The discovery of two murdered people, that their hearts had been exploded, was something that you don't read in most modern lit.
Yeah.
It really I don't remember how I was into it the first time and how I glazed over it the first time. I don't know if I sped read it, but the second time I read it, I remember I had to go back and I had to dive into it and read a sentence, think. Read a sentence, think again. Read the whole paragraph, reread it, and it was more visceral the second time I read it than the first. And if there's something that you people in the chat haven't read yet, Stormfront, well worth your time. It is a great new series to start, even though crafties are modern fantasy. No, thank you. Okay, that's fine. It is a good urban fantasy book, which borrows a lot from modern mythology. And when I say modern mythology, I want to say it borrows heavily off of the myths that we all grew up with. It borrows off of fairies. It borrows off of elves. I don't think it's fully classified as young adult fiction. I really don't. Not with the direction the last few books went, after Skin Game especially.
Oh God! I'm gonna cry.
It's really not that bad there, Crafty. If you weren't a fan of Supernatural, then I get it. I wasn't at first, but that's the easiest way to kind of compare it to something that everybody out there is familiar with, and it's really not that far off the mark.
No. If you
just
like
that
The Librarians,
mm-hmm.
did you ever watch the show The Librarians?
Yeah, I watched like one or two. And if it's what I'm thinking of, and that was quite a while ago.
Mm-hmm. There's a episode or a TV show called The Librarians. There's a few movies based on the magicians. The girl that played the main lead actress in Castle was in one of these shows back.
Yeah. That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah. Back before she did Castle with that kid from ER.
Yeah.
John Carter actually is his name, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's not homoerotic. It's pretty far away from homoerotic. I think Butcher is pretty anti-descriptive. He's very much a homophobe because there's areas where they could go straight into homoerotic stuff. Nope. Steers well away from it. And not in a way where he's got the big flashing lights. I'm not going to type to about my homophobia, but you get the feeling after you get done reading it. It's like that dude he writes about the Dresden Files. That dude is completely after vagina, and that's the feeling I got. Like there's no questioning with him. He knows what he loves. He either likes them redhead and kind of tall and that's retaining, or he likes them really petite and blonde haired. And very much a dominant personality type, but he has a crush on both Susan Rodriguez and for Karen Murphy.
I think I want to say, it's not that I'm going against what you're saying. I guess I am kinda. I want to say that he is homophobic. I just say he knows where his fans are, and he writes for his fans. With that being said, in 2 minutes to spare, I'm going to stop it with that. Yeah, I'm too young for this conversation too.
Hey, Crafty, I'm as you know me, I am normally 99.99% of the time right there with your last statement. But every once in a while, I get a hankering for maybe not the low magic part, but the battle axe and big sword part. But every once in a while, I do get a hankering for something, that's for me, I guess gritty and dark is modern. I'll just leave it there.
Very much so. All right. With that being said, I'm still just but
I totally get you, Kyle. That's fucking hysterical.
So, any idea what we're going to be talking about? Kai, we're going to be doing this again here in a couple weeks, where we'll be talking about Fool's Moon.
Next week. Well, not next week. Next week we will be back, but it's going to take us a while to get to full moon. So it's the little guy's pick for the topic. What's it going to be?
So I'm just going to not pick my own topic, and say what he said he was going to pick.
Well, no, if you got a good idea, we'll jump on
no,
it.
the problem is I don't have a good idea.
Oh, okay. So it's not really going to be his pick this time. It'll be, it's going to be Stranger Things season 4 review because he doesn't have an actual idea on his own yet. Something that will go along with the regular thing, just because he hasn't had much time to indulge in some of his own, free time activities because of last month of school. So next week we're going to review, I guess, Stranger Things season 4, and then maybe the week after, we'll just take it 1 week at a time, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just basically waiting for, and I'm not being pushy when I say this. I am just basically waiting for you to read, or at least read all but 20 minutes of Fool's Moon before we go into that book. Yes, I'm going to pick on you a little bit for that one, Jack.
I'll probably have Fool's Moon done by the time we get to it. So
I hope so.
I'll definitely get it done by that point, but I might even have it done by. Well, if I actually try to, I'll most certainly have it done by next week.
Next month. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
Next month, certainly.
Yeah, and this doesn't count as my pick either, because you guys know what my pick would be.
What would your pick be?
Stripper Guild?
No, but that would be a good second pick. No. My next pick, would be the Nine Princes in Amber.
I gotta get hold of that book. I need to take some time and read that one.
But no. I would rather it not be until like August, to be brutally honest. So don't even think you need to hurry.
Tell you what, next week we'll do Stranger Things, and the week after it will be in next month. If the small guy has Dresden, the Full Moon done, and so does Dear Old Dad, we'll think about doing it then. If not, we'll find something else to talk about, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about out there.
Thank you, Ty. I never would have guessed you were a Zelazny fan, but hey, don't say that, Travis. That word, that sentence is verboten. You're not allowed to say that, because you will ruin something that I love almost more than life itself. That's our secret, okay, buddy?
All right.
I think you would have just ignored it.
I know, but I don't mind if a few people read it, but
So, with that being said, and it's that time, Jack, you know what time it is. It is for the words of wisdom. Do you have any this week?
I actually do, and I may or may not have been thinking about these all week.
Oh, wow. I might actually have an effect on the youth. God save us all. All right, what are they?
All right. Don't wait till the last minute, because if you do, all you will have is 1 minute.
That's clever.
I like that. Wow.
That's really good. That is really good. I like that one. Shadow, you're up. Any words of wisdom other than norm?
Same as they always are. They're always going to be the same. Play the games you love with people you love.
All right. And Bruce.
I know that some of you may have the day off tomorrow. Some of you will not. But tomorrow is our national day where we give thanks for the people that have fought for us to have the freedoms we're still allowed to have, even though we've lost a lot of them because we've let some people get old in office. I don't want to go further into that topic, but I do want you guys to be at least thankful or have a grateful heart that we do live in this great nation and time. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
That's from Crafty. Apparently the chat wants to get into this, which I'm not opposed.
Yeah, I like that one, Crafty. That was really good.
And this one is from Kai.
Yeah, too late there, Crafty.
Yeah.
I violated both of those numerous times, so sorry.
Oh, Travis J just hit me on the feels. I've got some fever going for Team America.
No shit, huh?
All right. My words of wisdom.
Yeah, we've got it on DVD, and we're buying a DVD player tomorrow, so maybe that's what we'll do tomorrow afternoon.
We should.
After
My
we're on,
words of wisdom are quite simple. But I think they're simple. Treat each other the best that you can. If you got children, remember that at some point they will be paying for your nursing home. If you don't have children, be nice to your nieces and nephews because they might be paying for your retirement home. But other than that, just be good to each other. And if you get a chance to, and you're a parent, take some time, spend some time with your kids, read them a story, take them out for ice cream, go see a movie. We don't know what tomorrow will bring. So spend as much time with them as you can because nothing lasts forever. They do grow up. They move on with their own lives. They graduate from high school. They start their own careers. I think there's a couple songs that go along with that. But be good to each other. And remember, every child needs to go to Neverland at least once. So read Peter Pan. Second star to the right, all to morning. You all have a good night. Oh, wait. One more thing. I almost forgot. Write your character sheets with the crayon and roll your dice in the dark. Love you all. Good night.
bye, everybody.
God bless.